Hello everyone, hi! So today I want to talk about the best books of German literature that I have read. Turns out that there are exactly 10 out of the 40 or so books of German literature I've read in my life. So a good point to check in. You'll see that I have read all of those books in German. German is my mother tongue. I grew up in Austria. But I also have a lot of them in the English translation because one of my aims with this channel is to make literature available across language borders. So I'll be able to give you recommendations for translations as we go through. And if this is the first video of mine that you're watching, then hello, welcome, I'm Maria. I study comparative literature at the University of Vienna. And besides this YouTube channel, I also have a Patreon now where you can listen to my literature podcast. I also make bonus videos there. I just uploaded a bookshelf tour this week. And if you're interested in more structured literature content, you can also check out my courses for that. Everything will be linked in the description box down below. So now, without further ado, and in no particular order, let's get into the books. The first book I want to talk about is actually a play, and that is The Good Person of Szechwan by Bertolt Brecht. This is a play that Brecht wrote when he was in exile in the United States, and it was first performed in 1943 in Switzerland. In this play, we follow our protagonist, Shanti, and we see her struggling with wanting to be a morally good person. She lives in this town called Szechwan, and everyone there is really poor, and she is too. So her goodness really gets exploited by the people around her. They take advantage of Shanti by manipulating her into giving them everything that she has. So really the book is about her trying to navigate how she can help others without going under herself. And to do that, she comes up with a very good but a very sad strategy that I'm not gonna spoil for you here. But needless to say, I find this play really fascinating. I think it really shows what the psyche is capable of in extreme situations. And it shows how when you don't have money, it's really all you think about. And it's very, very difficult to extend grace to someone else and to be kind and make morally good decisions if you don't have enough to eat. And overall, I find that the play really puts its finger right on the issue of morality, which is like, yeah, we would all like to be good people, but we also need to pay our rent, kind of. Bertolt Brecht wrote epic theater, and that is a kind of theater that doesn't care so much about the illusion on stage, like that the viewers get really immersed in the play. It's a lot more about the political message that people take home after they went to the theater. So there are a lot of elements like breaking the fourth wall, interacting with the audience and all of that to achieve that effect. So it is a political play. You have to like that, but I find that Brecht goes about it in such a precise, pinpointing way. Like, he does it so well, and this is a very readable play. I've read a lot of plays of theater in my life, and Bertolt Brecht and Dürrenmatt, which is also going to be on this list, of course, I find those two to be the most readable plays in the German language and the most enjoyable ones. The most important question of the play does stay unanswered, and that is how to be a good person under financial pressure. But I did want to give you a little taste of Brecht's writing, so I will read you the epilogue of the play. I already did that in my first podcast episode, but it's so good, so I'm just going to read it again here, and you'll immediately get a feeling of epic theater, because you have to imagine the play is over, the curtain is down, everyone is off stage, and then one single actor comes back out and says this: And this is the Eric Bentley translation. You're thinking, aren't you, that this is no right conclusion to the play you've seen tonight? After a tale, exotic, fabulous, a nasty ending was slipped up on us. We feel deflated too. We too are nettled to see the curtain down and nothing settled. How could a better ending be arranged? Could one change people? Can the world be changed? Would new gods do the trick? Will atheism? Moral rearment? Materialism? It is for you to find a way, my friends, to help good men arrive at happy ends. You write the happy ending to the play. There's got to be a way. Next up, we have Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke, or in German, Briefe an einen jungen Dichter. This is a collection of letters written by Rilke to an aspiring poet called Franz between the years 1903 and 1908. Kappus was asking for Rilke's feedback on his poetry, but he was also wanting to hear Rilke's advice on deciding on a career, because Kappus wasn't sure whether he wanted to pursue being a poet or pursue a career in the military. So we only have in this book Rilke's letters, his replies to Kappus. We unfortunately don't have Kappus's letters, but gosh, they are so beautiful. They were never intended to be published, right? But that makes them even more beautiful. It's just kind of heartwarming to think that someone has reached out to Rilke with a specific question and, wanting feedback on something, and Rilke took the time to write those extremely beautiful and thoughtful letters back to that person. So in my opinion, anyone doing anything artistic needs to read those letters. It's a balm for the soul, honestly, without falling into cliches. And it's incredibly grounding and calming in this fast-paced world that we live in. Rilke talks a lot about the solitude you need as an artist and how your work needs to ripen over time. Here's a quote from letter 3. Quote, "To be an artist means not to compute or count. It means to ripen as the tree, which does not force its sap, but stands unshaken in the storms of spring, with no fear that summer might not follow. It will come regardless, but it comes only to those who live as though eternity stretches before them, carefree, silent, and endless. I learn it daily, learn it with many pains, for which I am grateful. Patience is all." I've also recently read The Notebooks of Malte Lauritz-Brigge by Rilke, which I did not like at all, but it's like a real shot in the arm. If you are trying to be a writer and you feel stuck on your artistic journey, this is the book for you. It's also an amazing present to an artsy friend. I've given this book to a lot of people in my life. Next up, we've all seen this one coming. Part 1 of Goethe's Faust, in this amazing translation by David Luke, by the way. So when I scripted this video, I was like, what can I say about Goethe's Faust that I haven't already said? Because I've made like 3 YouTube videos in my early YouTube days about this book. And I think everyone knows what this play actually is about. It's about Dr. Faustus, who is in search for knowledge. And after he has tried everything, he is selling his soul to the devil. So this play, it just talks about everything, art, love, science, religion, It has it all. Goethe worked on it for his entire life, and you can really see how extremely mature this work is. And what I find so great about it is just the language. The amount of vocabulary Goethe had is insane. Like, there are a total of 93,000 different words in his novels, plays, and letters. Like, that's how many words he knew and used. And I looked this up because I was curious. I was like, how many words does an average person know? So when you're learning a language and you're at the level of A1 in the European reference system, I think most people know you go from A1 to A2, and that's the beginner level. Then B1 and B2 is the intermediate, and C1, C2 is the advanced level. And supposedly if you've reached C2, you're at the level of speaking the language like it's your mother tongue. Anyways, if you're a beginner, A1, you have around 500 to 800 words available to you. If you are on level B2, you have around 4,000 to 5,000 words available to you. And then if you're on the level of mother tongue, C2, you know around 10,000 to 12,000 words. And Goethe knew 93,000. So I don't know, reading Faust to me, it's like reading a dictionary, but better. I mean, it's extremely difficult to read when you don't know what it is about. That's why I've made all of these videos about it, because it's like once you know the plot, you can just enjoy the language. But if you're trying to understand what it is about, it's extremely difficult and advanced. I find I couldn't do it. And again, get the David Luke translation, it's amazing. But I think I've said that before. I've just rarely am I more grateful to be able to understand and read German than when I have my nose in Faust. And I am obviously not using all of those words myself, but I can understand them all. And that goes for all of Goethe's works. Another one that could have easily been on this list is The Sorrows of Young Werther. And I also really love Elective Affinities, Die Wahlverwandtschaften. This is an audio CD. There's 10 CDs in there. I've loved listening to this in the car when I still had a car. So they're great as well. It's just that, Faust has this incredible complexity and maturity that I haven't found it anywhere else. It's maybe like Hamlet or something, like a work that you can just endlessly chew on and open at any page, and it's deeply philosophical and provocative and timeless and all of those things at the same time. I've decided to read you a quote from page 57. It really reflects how I feel as a student sometimes. So, the student speaks. Quite frankly, though I thirst for knowledge, I am not quite sure if I shall stay. These walls and halls scare me away. Everything seems to hem one in. There's no green grass, no trees, and in these lecture rooms, oh goodness me, I can't think straight, or hear, or see. And now in German. Aufrichtig möchte ich schon wieder fort. In diesen Mauern, diesen Hallen, will es mir keineswegs gefallen. Es ist ein gar beschränkter Raum. Man sieht nichts Grünes, keinen Baum. Und in den Sälen, auf den Bänken, vergeht mir Hören, Sehen und Denken. Book number 4, Leutnant Gustl by Arthur Schnitzler. This novella is the first great inner monologue of the German language, and it came out in the year 1900. Here's a quote to give you a taste. Excuse me, can I please pass by? What a crush. Let's let people pass by. An elegant woman. Are those real diamonds? That one over there is nice. How she's looking at me. Oh, yes, my little girl. I'd love to. Oh, what a nose. A Jewess. Yet another one. It's amazing. Half of them are Jews. You can't listen to an oratorio in peace anymore. Now I just have to follow the crowd. Why is that idiot behind me pushing me like that? I'll teach him not to. Oh, an old man. So you get the idea. It truly is an inner monologue, as though someone just put up a camera inside someone's brain and is recording all of the scattered thoughts that are going on there. But there is a story. So on these 30 pages, we follow Gustl, who is an Austrian officer, and he goes into a concert one evening where after the concert, a baker insults him. And that throws Gustl into crisis, and he even contemplates suicide to uphold his strict code of honor. So how it used to work is that when you're an officer and someone insults you, you had to challenge them to a duel. But because the man that insulted him was a baker and can't be challenged to a duel, Gustl's conclusion is, well, then I have to kill myself to uphold my strict military code of honor. So he fears that he'll need to kill himself to keep his reputation, which is like a great portrayal of the military mindset in Austria around that time. It's very humorous. Dark, of course, but humorous. So that's what the book is about, right? Pretty much at the beginning, this baker insults him, and then we're just in his head, seeing him arguing with himself and not knowing what to do. So it's an exhausting book to read. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't even like it when I first read it, but somehow it's like tickled my funny bone. Like something about the shallowness, the fear, the obsession, the vanity, the hypocrisy, the neurotic way of thinking. It's just glorious. Like the way he constantly contradicts himself, it's just very well done. It took me several months after reading the book to realize how amazing it is, because it seems very random, like there are just thoughts thrown together, but Schnitzler was deeply interested in psychoanalysis, and it's actually a highly crafted text. I'm gonna read you a quick quote about Schnitzler from this book, Wittgenstein's Vienna, that really shows how apt he was as a writer and the problem of communication in his stories. Quote, Schnitzler's extraordinary capacity to diagnose the plight of his society in literary form was thus the result of the fact that, as physician and poet, he straddled two vastly different generations with vastly different sets of values. And this dual background provided Schnitzler with a theme that pervaded all of his work, namely the problem of communication. They, Schnitzler's protagonists, cannot communicate because they encapsulate themselves hopelessly with social roles which satisfy their immediate desires and thereby rob themselves of all hope of more lasting fulfillment. Next up, The Visit, or Der Besuch der alten Dame by Friedrich Dürrenmatt. So reading this play is the first deep memory I have of reading German literature. We had to read this play at school when I was 16 or something, and I remember just being startled that someone would dare to write a book like that. Up until that point, I always thought that books were really boring, but I truly loved it. It just pulled the rug out from under me, and it left a deep impression on me. Still to this day. I've read other plays by Dürrenmatt and they're all good, but this is the one. So it's the story of a woman called Claire Zachanassian, who is a billionaire and returns to the town in which she grew up. Köln. And Gürn is really struggling financially. So the people living there hope that Claire, who is now coming back, will provide them with some funds to rebuild the city and get everyone out of poverty. And she does. She offers everyone in this poor town millions, like unimaginable amounts of money for the town and every inhabitant. But she has one condition. She says, I'm going to give you all this money if you kill Alfred Ill. Like, I don't care how he dies, but this man needs to go. And Alfred Ill is one of the inhabitants of this town, and let's just say him and Claire, they have personal history. So she wants to buy justice, right? That's like the crux of the matter, the question of the book. Can you buy justice? Can you buy yourself really good revenge? And no one accepts her offer. Everyone's outraged, you know. They're all like, we would never, for money, like kill our friend and neighbor. In fact, there's this quote where they say, we're still in Europe. We're not savages yet. In the name of the town of Gürn, I reject your offer. In the name of humanity, we would rather be poor than have blood on our hands. And then, you know, things develop in an interesting way. The entire play is very witty, very satirical, and just eminently readable. Again, plays can be really hard to read. This one is not. I heard it referred to a satire of capitalism because Claire Zachanassian's answer to what do you think you can't buy justice is that she says everything can be bought. Like, we live in a world where literally if you have enough money, you can have anything you want. Dürrenmatt was very influenced by absurd theater in the likes of Beckett. So absurd theater is a collective term for theater with grotesque, unharmonic, comical scenes that point at the senselessness of human existence. So that's what you get in here as well. And absurd theater started in Paris, in France. I think it was often staged in the small theaters of the Quartier Latin, but its influence reached far beyond just France, and it reached writers like Friedrich Dürrenmatt, who is Swiss, by the way. So yeah, this play will forever have a place in my heart. Next on the list, The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, or Der Zauberberg in the original German, which you should read in the John E. Woods translation if you're trying to read it. Don't even bother with the other English translations. This is a book about a young man, Hans Castorp, and he is going to the Swiss mountains into a sanatorium where he kind of ends up staying much longer than he initially thought. And not a lot happens on like a day-to-day basis that is like very, I don't know, outwardly exciting or something. But he meets people there that have different world views, and he's kind of forming his character after all the people that he meets. It's a little bit of a Bildungsroman, but then it's also kind of not, because Hans Castorp himself stays inactive and doesn't ever like get to the point of taking action or something. But this book is about so much. It's about the sentiments that were present in Europe before the war. It's about health and sickness and love, and it's just this great all-encompassing novel that has everything that has to do with the human condition. It's very much a book about humanity, and it can be tough to get through, again, because not a lot happens and it's a lot of philosophy. But I love how this book stays with me. It's actually been more than 2 years since I've read it, and it just, I don't know, it's like it has become a part of me in a way where it will never go away again or something. And it's so enjoyable to read because Thomas Mann was a very disciplined writer, and you can see that in this book. He had like his strict writing hours, so he's a lot about structure and discipline, and there's a lot of like rigor going into this book, but then also he knows how to fill that room that the structure creates in very open and flowy and philosophical ways. It's also very funny, and overall I love books that make me feel like there is a lot of growth that I still have to go through until I can really understand them. Like there are a lot of things I still need to go through in my life and things that I still need to learn until I can go back to this book when I'm 50 or something and read it in a way where I'm sucking all of the marrow out of it. You know what I mean? And I've made 2 videos about this book, so if you're more interested in how to approach it and what other people have to say about it, I'm gonna link those 2 videos. I think it's great, especially the second one, what other people had to say about reading it. Very, very interesting. I'm just gonna read you a quick quote. Here we are on page 122. Emptiness and monotony may stretch a moment, or even an hour, and make it, quote-unquote, boring. But they can likewise abbreviate and dissolve large, indeed the largest units of time, until they seem nothing at all. Conversely, rich and interesting events are capable of filling time until hours, even days, are shortened and speed past on wings, whereas on a larger scale, interest lends the passage of time breadth, solidity, and weight, so that years rich in events pass much more slowly than do paltry, bare, featherweight years that are blown before the wind and are gone. What people call boredom is actually an abnormal compression of time caused by monotony. Uninterrupted uniformity can shrink large spaces of time until the heart falters, terrified to death. When one day is like every other, then all days are like one, and perfect homogeneity would make the longest life seem very short, as if it had flown by in a twinkling. Habit arises when our sense of time falls asleep, or at least grows dull. And if the years of youth are experienced slowly, while the years of later life hurtle past at an ever-increasing speed, it must be habit that causes it. Book number 7, The Earthquake in Chile by Heinrich von Kleist. I adore Kleist for his incredibly fast-moving, almost chaotic stories. The Earthquake in Chile is the first one I've ever read, and it's still my favorite. So this is only 20 pages long, which makes me realize that there's only really short books and really long books on this list, which is kind of true. That I tend to like those the most. Like either a really good short story or a long book I have to like chew at for months. Anyways, Kleist, he really doesn't like F around. He gets right to the point. It's great to get anyone out of a reading slump, I feel, to read some Kleist. And it's dense, so there are a lot of things happening really, really quickly, but it's not difficult to read. Just, again, very fast moving. And this short story in particular starts with a man, Jeronimo, who is sitting in prison and he is about to hang himself. And then there's this earthquake that hits. The earthquake saves him from his suicide and also makes it possible for him to escape. He then finds his lover in the chaos of people, which is a miracle in and of itself. And they together flee to the outskirts of the city to be safe and to like talk to the other people that survived this terrible earthquake. So in the aftermath of this terrible disaster, everyone is really nice to each other. Like all the people are super nice to this couple, even though the man was in prison because they had an affair, like the two of them. But you know how it often is, like there is a tragedy and it makes people more lenient. Everyone's just kind of glad to be alive and the past is kind of forgotten. But, you know, it wouldn't be a good story if it just stayed like that. I'm again not gonna spoil it, but this story is another one of those like what does human nature do in extreme situations kind of story. I find the ending has an extremely awkward slant. It's like a happy ending question mark. The ending just feels very off, as is often the case with Heinrich von Kleist. I actually enjoyed this story much more than Die Marquise von O, which is the other short story that is in this edition, and that is, I feel like, the most well-known short story by Kleist. But it's the earthquake in Chile that really sticks with me. I think about it like once a week. Book number 8, The Short Stories of Franz Kafka. So I love the Metamorphosis, A Hunger Artist, but also shorter stories like The Cares of a Family Man. And I can really, really recommend, if you're going to read Kafka in English, to get this edition of collected short stories translated by Willa and Edwin Muir. I want to give you a taste of Kafka in this translation right away. So here's the last paragraph of The Cares of a Family Man. Quote, I ask myself, to no purpose, what is likely to happen to him? Can he possibly die? Anything that dies had some kind of aim in life, some kind of activity, which has worn out. But that does not apply to Otradec. Am I to suppose, then, that he will always be rolling down the stairs, with ends of thread trailing after him, right before the feet of my children and my children's children? He does no harm to anyone, that one can see. But the idea that he is likely to survive me, I find almost painful. Yeah, what can I say about Kafka? He just tapped into something so relevant about our modern society. I mean, I think all great literature does that. It's very much, it is of its time, but also it's not. It's like timeless in how it applies to the human condition, that like part of us that never seems to change. But it's like an entirely different ball game with Kafka. He like takes that to the next level. I find his stories read almost as like stories of archetypes or something. And you know the way people watch Black Mirror and they're like, oh my gosh, this feels so relevant. Like that's exactly what's going to happen with our technology use. And then it does. That's what it feels like to read Kafka, even though he wrote like 100 years ago. I have again made many videos about Kafka here on this channel that I will link. His stories are quite easy to read language-wise, so I feel like if you're learning German, reading Kafka can be a really good first step into German literature. But yeah, it is like my professor always says, everyone needs to read Kafka all the time. Book number 9, Herta Müller's Atemschaukel, or in English, The Hunger Angel. This book came out in 2009, which is the same year in which Herta Müller received the Nobel Prize for Literature. And this is a story about a teenage boy called Leopold Auberg, who, when he was 17 years old, got deported into a Soviet labor camp because after the war, all Germans in Romania were seen as allies of the Nazis. So he spends his youth in this labor camp and describes the everyday things that happen there, you know, his feelings of hunger and homesickness. And it's so horrible, obviously, but then it's described through this extremely beautiful and poetic language that just leaves you like hanging in the middle as a reader. It's really a book again that just left a mark on me. Like the descriptions of hunger, they just broke me. Like this book broke me. I had to read it for a course I took about the history of German literature, and it was like the last book on the reading list, so it was like close to semester ending, and I just had to go through it really fast. And I was like, wow, I cannot even let all of this in at the moment because it's so emotional, it's so confronting. I unfortunately don't have the English version of this book, but I looked up a couple of quotes to give you an impression. Quote, "I have packed myself into silence so deeply and for so long that I can never unpack myself using words. When I speak, I only pack myself a little differently." Or, here's another quote, "I'm always telling myself I don't have many feelings. Even when something does affect me, I'm only moderately moved. I almost never cry. It's not that I'm stronger than the ones with teary eyes. I'm weaker. They have courage. When all you are is skin and bones, feelings are a brave thing." She's a great writer, really builds her own vocabulary as she goes. It's a hard read, so, you know, either be ready for that or shield your heart as you go through it. Okay, last book on the list, The Man Without Qualities by Robert Musil, or Der Mann ohne Eigenschaften in German. So technically I haven't read this book yet. I am currently reading it. I'm like 200 pages in, something like that. But still it deserves a spot on this list. So Musil was an Austrian modernist writer, and this novel takes place in the time of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy's last days, so before World War I. I would say it definitely behooves one to know a little bit about Austrian history if you're going to read this. Yeah, but overall, I actually don't feel smart enough to read this book. It's again that thing of liking to read books that make me feel stupid. I feel like I only get like 20% of the things he's saying, but he's so incredibly skilled with how he talks about things. It's like it's very witty and satirical that it's a joy to read. And it's not difficult language-wise. So again, not a lot happens in the book. There are many subtle historical references, and a lot of it is over my head. But I'm determined to make my way through it, and I will be learning a lot about this book, and eventually I'm going to make a video about it because it's probably going to be in part what my bachelor's thesis is going to be about. So very exciting. I'll read you a quote to give you a sense of Musil's cheekiness, kind of. "The secret of a good librarian is that he never reads anything more of the literature in his charge than the title and the table of contents. Anyone who lets himself go and starts reading books a lot is lost as a librarian. He's bound to lose perspective." I said on my podcast the other day that I'm probably going to read nothing else for the rest of the year because it's taking me an enormous amount of time to get through this. But it's fine. I'm sure it will still be worth it. Yeah, so I thought I would end this video by just telling you the books I want to read soon. So next on my list is definitely The World of Yesterday by Stefan Zweig, because it's another integral part for understanding the time in Vienna around 1900, again the topic for my bachelor's thesis. I really cannot wait to read Heinrich von Ofterdingen by Novalis, Dr. Faustus by Thomas Mann, though I'm unsure whether I should read Dr. Faustus or Buddenbrooks first. So if you have read any of them, maybe tell me your impressions. I really want to get around to some short stories by Ingeborg Bachmann, and I really want to read Der Schimmelreiter, or The Rider on the White Horse, which is a Gothic fiction novella by Theodor Storm. And mostly I want to read it because so many people under my German literature reading list video spoke so highly of it. So if you want to stay up to date on a weekly basis as I'm making my way through these books, again, check out my podcast. And thank you so much for being here. I'll see you again very soon. Bye bye.